Hey everyone, Zane here. This is a video that I really should have made a little bit sooner, but I kind of wasn't sure about the best way to go about it for at least a little bit. Um, so, uh, Forgive me. It's 11 o'clock at night at time of filming, and I have never been good at being concise and coherent with these sort of freeform thought videos. It hasn't actually been that long since I last uploaded anything, but you've probably noticed that most of the content that I've uh, been uploading to the channel as of late has been kind of rehashes of older projects and just stuff I kind of had lying around. And The reason for that is that I is quite simply I wanted to have something to keep the content train going, which is a little weird to say because I've always treated this YouTube channel as kind of just a hobby and gotten as much out of it as somebody who treats it as a hobby and not really as work. But what I have not been able to convey um, from the upload schedule that from the uploads is that I have been dealing with some shit. Um, I think I made a update video earlier in the year where I said that I I have been having a rough year. Um, 2024 has not been a good year for me, and the summer has been the worst of it. To be honest, it's for a number of reasons. I Sorry, there's a bug crawling in my bed. I'm not even gonna edit this video, so um, you'll have to deal with all the incoherent rambling. But um, 2024 has not been a good year for me, and the summer has been the worst of it. I will not go into exact details of why, um, but for right now, I'm doing fine, I guess, but I know that I certainly could be doing a lot better. And um, and I just wanted to take a moment to kind of talk about where I've really been mentally um, recently, because uh, circumstances across both last year and this year have taught me that I need to make some changes to my life and myself, and in order to do that, I need people to help me and hold me accountable to those changes. Um, because when it comes to a lot of stuff that's going on, I've learned recently that I do definitely have some kind of toxic habits that I've built up over the course of my life that are really not serving me. Um, and I want to start with the one of the things that has kind of spurred all this on, which is personal projects. Um, as you know, my personal projects have kind of been my focus, and sometimes I share them to this channel. Um, the thing is that I mentioned that I consider this YouTube channel to be very much a hobby sort of thing, and that's because I really don't consider myself as I don't think that I have the right sort of personality to be a full-time YouTuber. Um, Even with Darius the Conqueror, that there were, pretty substantial breaks in between updates, and when I posted showcase videos to the channel. And that's because I'm somebody who, even working at his fastest, likes to take his time, wants to do the best job that he can to produce the best product that he can. Um, and, well, it's not something that it's not like you can't have a balance between that and pumping videos out in a way that would appease the YouTube algorithm, but it's hard. And getting to the point where you kind of can do that, um, you need to. I feel like you need to have a big established fan base in order to get away with it to some extent, and I don't have that. Um, the thing is that in addition to all the stuff I've uploaded, I had a couple plans for things that I wanted to do. Um, Obviously, that one of the big things that I wanted to make Darius the Conqueror into its own IP and its own game. Um, that was something that I had planned on doing from the start, obviously. And I'm gonna be real, I am not satisfied with a lot of aspects of Darius the Conqueror. I think I did about as well as I could, but I definitely rushed through a lot of production, and there's some faults that of the game that are kind of beyond my ability to fix to some extent, and then there's just some stuff where I just plain didn't think some things through. Um, and I'm glad that people like it, but personally, I think that I could have done so much better. And even though I am reasonably happy with what I made, I did want to make it into a proper game and make it to the standard that I wanted um, it to be at. Um, the problem with that is that I have had an extreme amount of difficulty actually transitioning into real game development. I've had a lot of trouble understanding how to work with game engines. Um, and I say game engines. I really only tried one, which was Godot. Um, and Godot's a bit on the complicated side, so I guess what was I expecting, but I also feel like on some level my repeated attempts to find an avenue for actually making a real video game, real quote unquotes, they've kind of dead ended. I get frustrated very easily, personally, and I have trouble sticking with something if I don't take to it right away. But I also just feel like the whole DIY look up YouTube videos to teach you how to do this thing is not really an approach that's going to work for me in terms of game design. I feel like I personally would just need somebody who's more experienced, who I could, go to one on one, to answer questions and stuff like that. And I don't have that. I'm not entirely sure where to look. There's a couple of places where I've kind of thought that maybe I might have be able to find something like that, and that ended up kind of not really being the case. And that's to say nothing of, finding other people to help with, art assets and all the other stuff that goes into everything. Let alone, making the changes and fixes to the story that I wanted to make. And this is not to say, to cry foul and say poor me, because the simple fact is that I feel stuck with this thing that I want to, with this dream I have of getting into game design. I don't know how to move forward, and I'm frustrated by that. So that's been a part of where I've been. And it's a real drag, and for the time being, I'm kind of taking some time to divest from that, from trying to make a quote unquote real game. But there's been other issues too. After deciding I was going to put DTC Remade down for a little while, I came up with the idea to go back to making another Fire Emblem ROM hack, utilizing a story that was separate from DTC, but kind of connected by being in the same world. And I was happily working on it, and then, just out of nowhere, something in the ROM broke, and in trying to fix it, I ended up deleting a whole bunch of data that's really important and basically impossible to replace. And so that project died. And that really took the wind out of my sails, and it put me in a real bad mood for a good couple of weeks. And particularly because it was something that I thought I knew how to do, and it just didn't work out for me. And it's one of those things where it's like, any one of these individual things where you try and work on a video game and something doesn't work and you don't know what to do to fix it. It's frustrating. All of them coming together makes it feel like you genuinely have no talent for this thing that you are passionate about and love so much. And that's a source of frustration. So that's one aspect of kind of where my mental health has been. There's another aspect too, and it's the not as fun thing to talk about: politics. I'm sorry, it's an election year. It's gonna come up. But yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about stuff that's going on right now with the current election cycle, as well as stuff that's going on in the world. And I learned last year that letting resentments and problems build up is really bad for me. This year has made that clear as well. But when you're anxious about politics and current events, it's doubly frustrating because a lot of times I don't have what I feel like is a good outlet to vent that dirty laundry. Obviously, most of the friends that I have aren't really interested in talking politics for good reason. There are some people who I might feel a little more comfortable talking about them with, and knowing that I would be respected, that my feelings would be respected and honored, um, that people might be able to provide me with perspective. But even then, a lot of them aren't always as well informed about certain subjects. For example, I've had a lot of conflicting thoughts about the whole war in Gaza situation and the way that some people have been responding to it. Um, and the thing is that I don't have anybody in my life who I trust to talk about that, who is super informed about the whole situation. Um, my parents or the few friends that I have who I could trust with that stuff, they just don't know exactly what's been going on. Um, and it means that talking about how I feel, honestly, feels like I can't do that. Um, and to some extent, I think part of the problem also as well is that I have a real bad habit of getting locked into Twitter, which I know you're gonna roll your eyes at hearing me say that. Um, Twitter is one of those things where, like, I can't or don't want to put it aside because there's only, I know that I have to use it in like a very specific way, in order to not have it set me off, but the way that Twitter is set up nowadays kind of makes that hard to do. It was always kind of hard to do, but you know, it's just how social media be. Um, and I've got a lot of thoughts about um, the way people have been reacting to the DNC, and shit like that. That has been um, has been it's just tough to talk about. And if I have people who are watching, um, who might be able to give me an answer, um, and my therapist is not always the best answer because again, she doesn't always have the full scope of what's going on, so it's not always helpful to talk to her. Um, you know, I love solutions, and that kind of segues into a third point that I have, which is just dealing with some personality flaws in general. Um, so I talked about this a little bit, but um, there was one day, a couple months ago, where I got a comment from somebody who didn't care for Darius the Conqueror, and they made their feelings known in a big ass YouTube comment, couple paragraphs long, talking about all the things that they thought were wrong with the gameplay and story. Um, and I want to stress that it was not inflammatory, which kind of a low bar to have with me, but I'm used to a lot of the negative comments I've received about my work being inflammatory for various reasons. Um, and it's naturally made me a little a little bit a little bit cagey around criticism in general. And I came to realize that when I read this comment, because even though it wasn't inflammatory and a lot of the criticisms were good, I didn't agree with everything the guy said, and there were parts of it that made me feel like he didn't really understand certain parts of the story all that much. Um, the fact, listening to that, reading that sort of negative review it put me in a funk for a good couple of days. And I actually wrote about it in a blog post on Twitter that I posted to Twitter. And that was that was one of those things where I I was just so kind of shell shocked at myself, because here I am staring at a perfectly legitimate, if not entirely, if maybe not entirely helpful, criticism in the face, and I'm getting depressed over it, and I'm losing functionality over it. Is this just who I am? Am I just not capable of taking criticism? And recent events, they have kind of forced me to acknowledge a lot of personality flaws, particularly with the whole game design thing. I'm sure that there's a way. I'm sure that there's a way, but do I have the actual gumption to try and find it out and follow it? Am I actually capable of real hard work? And not just doing the bare minimum because it's easy and fun, and when it stops being fun, I stop doing it? Do I have what it takes to get what I really want out of life? You know? And there's a whole mess of other things about, I have some real self-centered tendencies, you know? Um, you guys don't get to see them, but my parents sure as heck do. And I have a bad habit of blaming people who are not me over things that go wrong in my life. I have issues. And I really do want to work on them. And obviously, we're all our own worst critic. So, that's, that's just kind of the nature of the beast. And for me, and for me, it's, it's par for the course. But, there is a lot that I feel like I do have to work on. And particularly before I really get anywhere. So, I know that was kind of heavy to some extent, but it's a lot of complicated emotions. And in the interest of bringing the mood up, I will say that, I'm not interested in sitting around and throwing a pity party for myself. I just want to be honest about how I'm feeling. I have never wanted to be anything else but. I will also say that I am not completely. I do still have projects I'm working on. I decided to take the story for the ROM hack that ended up crashing and burning, and turn it into a book, as in a prose book. As much as I don't necessarily like prose writing compared to, say, script writing, I feel like that this that a book is something that I could reasonably work on all by myself. There may be a couple of aspects of it, like peer review, that I would need and want other people for. And that's one thing I want to do, is that I want to get my friends involved in helping me keep, on schedule and make the, the book as good as it can be. So I am keeping busy. As for, am I going to upload to this channel, or share any of my projects with the world? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to this channel's upload schedule at the moment, because quite honestly, I don't have any projects that I feel like are worth sharing. And I'm not really a YouTuber. I'm just a guy who, likes making cool things, and if they have an audience, then they have an audience. But the long story short is that, I want to put this video out, and I hope that at least some of my friends are watching it right now. Just to say what's been going on with me, and what I am hoping to do moving forward. So I don't know what exactly is coming next. I have some ideas about what might be coming next, but nothing's set in stone. So it's kind of a anticlimactic way to end the video, but that's how it is. But I guess if there is a point to this video, it's just to remind myself that I got a long way to go, but I am still moving. I am still moving forward. And I always will be moving forward, even when it feels like I am moving backwards. And that I have to be willing and ready to ask for help if needs be. And that's what I'm gonna do when I have the chance. Too long don't watch. I'm tired. Fucking hell. I am not concise or coherent even at the best of times, and this is not the best of times. This is gonna be a fucking disaster to watch, but if you did, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys whenever I see you guys next.